Welcome to episode 31 of the Monsters of Geek podcast. I'm your editor-in-chief, Aaron, and this is all about sports. So we have the two best teammates that I could ever draft to be on my team because I'm like LeBron James. I don't just pick anybody, okay? We have Andrew here with us today, and we have Daniel here with us. Guys, what's up?
How's it going, man?
Going good. It's been a while since we heard Daniel's silky voice on the Monsters of Geek podcast.
Man, it's been a month. It has been exactly 1 month since I've been on here.
No wonder our listens went up.
Very funny.
What's up, Andrew?
If you're LeBron, I'm Michael Jordan. Let's get this going. Let's do it.
Well, since LeBron's the greatest NBA player ever,
He's not.
All right, that's another discussion for another time.
Yet.
We could be here
not yet
if we discuss that.
I said yet. I'm granting you a yet.
You know, we can stream for 8 hours. I did find that out. I was just kind of poking around Google, and I was like, "Oh, we can stream for 8 hours. We should try that one now." All right, so it's all about sports this week. We've had some pretty cool sports stuff go on. We will talk baseball for maybe the final time this year because there's the World Series. So I guess it kind of is a good way to talk about the finality of baseball. But we never talk about baseball on this podcast.
Do you mean only?
What'd you say, Andrew?
The only time? Is that what you mean?
The only time. Yes, the only time. Well, we talked about Griffey, so I guess that counts as baseball. All of our teams suck. So Daniel is a Braves fan. Andrew is a Braves fan. I'm a Reds fan. So I don't really keep up with baseball that much, especially football and basketball. But it would help if the Reds would, be good for me to care about baseball. But I think every sports fan, whether they like baseball or not, was probably watching Game 7 of the World Series to see if the Cubbies could pull off their 108-year drought or however long it is that they didn't that they have not won a World Series. Guys, obviously you watched the game. Me and Andrew actually texted back and forth, and of course our buddy Reed, who's probably the biggest baseball fan I know, we texted back a couple, and I acted like I knew what I was talking about while he was telling me about baseball. Andrew, what'd you think about the game? Just talk about Game 7 in general. I don't know how much of the series you watched, but just Game 7, what was your reaction to it?
I actually watched a decent amount of the series, all things considered, considering I'm not a baseball person. It was a great series, though, just watching it. But as far as Game 7 goes, I was actually at work, and I was working over, obviously, because it was nighttime, and I'm a day shift person. So it was not really the greatest experience watching it, but I was able to, put it on my computer, and while I was troubleshooting this and that in work, I was able to watch most of it. It was just a drama-filled game, really good, back and forth. You felt like the Cubs were in control the whole game, and then the two-run homer in the 8th, and you kind of felt like that was it. You felt like they had blown it right there, or not blown it. It's hard to say blown it because Cleveland was a great team. It's not like they were, some scrubs that just happened to be playing one of the better teams probably in the history of the league. But you felt like they'd blown it, and I was able to leave right before the rain delay. I guess that happened between the 9th and the 10th, right? And I have an hour commute, so I had to drive home. And I was like, what kind of Neanderthal am I that I don't have to listen to this on the radio like a caveman? But it was also fitting, right? Because, it's the Cubs, 108 years. I should have to listen to that on the radio. So it was pretty cool. And I was actually I was streaming it from radio on my phone because I couldn't find a good, just traditional radio station to listen to it on. And about 20 minutes from home, my wife called. We had something important to talk about, so we were talking about that. And I pulled up to the house, ran up the steps, opened the door just in time to see the pitch from whoever won the game or whatever, whoever the pitcher was for the last out for the Cubs, to see, Chris Bryant get the grounder, throw it to first. And I didn't know how many outs. I didn't know the situation. I just saw 8-7, saw the pitch, and was like, yes, I didn't miss it. I saw it on TV like a real human being. It was fantastic. Perfect timing. It was a great way to end 108 years of futility.
I would have actually liked to listen to that on the radio.
It would have been
really
cool.
awesome.
It would have been cool.
I'm a radio guy. I work for a radio station, so I guess that's just me. Daniel, what do you think about the reaction there? Obviously, you're one of the bigger baseball fans that I know. As far as at least when we was in college, we talked about baseball. A lot. Both our teams were halfway decent. What was your reaction while you were sitting there? It was an emotional game, not necessarily for me personally, because we're not Cubs fans, but really just it was an amazing, baseball game. What did you feel like while you were watching that?
Well, it was a really fun game to watch. Of course, I think that was the only game that I watched during the series. I mean, I kept up with the score. I checked in during some of the innings, but that was the first. That was the first game that I watched all the way through, and that is probably the first game that I watched all season. I haven't been watching much baseball since the Braves basically traded away their entire team, and we don't need to get into that too much. But it's a good thing Reed's not here because he'd probably be giving me a hard time about that. But because let's see, going into the when they hit the rain delay, going into the 10th, I was like, I had a big day of court, and I was like, I have to get to bed. Like I can't stay up. So, but I watched all the highlights the next morning. It was a lot of fun. What was it? The bottom of the 8th when
they gave up the 2
when the Indians tied it up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so exciting. Chapman was coming in throwing 100, and really at that point, if you can just get the barrel on the ball, and go, it's going to go somewhere. And it was just exciting to see. And
that's just science at that point. If he's going to throw it that hard, all I got to do is just kind of just get it in there, it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a lot of fun. And, it was pretty amazing that the Cubs came back from 3-1.
Yep.
They were down 3-1 going, let's see, was it the last game of the, they played one more in Chicago, and then they played the next two.
It was game 5 in Chicago that they tied it back up. Or got within 3-2, yeah.
Right. So it was a lot of fun, and everything I've been hearing is about how this is kind of reinvigorated baseball. So I enjoyed it. It was a blast. It was a fun game to watch.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I watched a baseball game. I think the last full game I watched was when the Reds blew that 2-0 lead against San Francisco a couple years back. I guess 3 years back or something. It was an even year because that's when San Francisco won it. So I'm not really sure. So I guess it was 2014. I guess was it 14? So it's been a while since I watched a whole game. And it was fun. I got home and my wife Shauna knows I'm not a huge baseball fan. And I kind of sat down. I turned on. She goes, "You watching a baseball game?" I said, "This ain't just a baseball game. This is Game 7 of the Cubs trying to win the World Series." Like I would not be a sports fan if I didn't sit down and watch this. And I watched it, all the way through, and I was just captivated through the whole thing. Me and my dog just kind of sat there and kind of chilled out and watched the Cubbies play. So I mean, it's one of those things that, as a sport. Go ahead, Daniel.
I was gonna say it's definitely one of those moments that you want to say that I saw that.
Sure, and think about this for a second. Think about the Red Sox, and we saw the Red Sox break the curse of the Bambino, and then we see the Cubs break the curse of the Billy Goat. Like there has been generations where neither of these teams, at least the Red Sox has made it to the World Series a couple times. The Cubs haven't done anything, but just to see those kind of mythical, historical losing streaks go away in our lifetime, how cool is that? I mean, just think, and the fact that the same person was the GM to beat both of those curses. Me and Joe talked about. He goes, "I think they should just put him in the Hall of Fame." Like, who does that? Like, what kind of wicked man to do that?
I have a question though, because Daniel, you mentioned it. Was this? I mean, it was short term great for baseball, but was it long term? Are we going to care again next year? The next great story are the Indians, and we're not going to care about the Indians. I don't think, not on that national level. Like okay, so here's my example, Aaron. I'm shocked that Shauna didn't know that it was Game 7 for the Cubs, 108 years and all that. I didn't know there was a person who didn't know that game was going on.
Anything about it. Once I told her what it was, she was, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's right." But she's not a baseball person at all.
Yeah, but that story had transcended baseball people, right? It had even bled over into non-sports people are aware of it and care about it. It was such a big deal. Yeah. It was a national story. So I'm surprised she didn't know about it, is what I'm saying. But is baseball going to get that again? Yes, it got the biggest baseball rating in 20 years or whatever it was. And it had like a 50? Is that what it was rated? 45?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Yeah.
25 million people. It was a lot. I don't think they're going to get that again. Like, part of me, just for selfish reasons, was hoping they would lose this year so we could watch it again next year because it was fun, it was exciting, and that's a really good team. But at the same time, I'm like, especially now that the story's over, the streak is over, right? Are we going to watch it again? Are we going to care again? I don't think so. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Besides the Indians, that's kind of the last losing streak, like big losing streak in baseball history, right? And nobody really cares about
It's
Cleveland.
the last great baseball story for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. So I think for baseball to maintain this, and I know people's going to hate me for this because, a lot of people think this is what's the issue is with baseball. I think you have to have New York be good. I think you have the Dodgers continue to be good. The Cubs continue to be good. You have to have these major market teams. And we can I'm glad to see Kansas City win. I'm glad to see the San Francisco Giants win. I'm glad to see all that. But for baseball to sustain this, they have to have the Cubs be good. Could you imagine a Cubs and Yankee series? Like, that's what they want, right? Like, the NBA always wants.
What I'm thinking would have been better.
Yeah.
For baseball.
Yeah, so I mean, like the NBA always wants LeBron and Steph Curry or LeBron and Kobe or whatever it is. They're more player centric. But if you got the Yankees and the Cubs in the World Series, that would maybe not do as big a numbers, but it would get pretty darn close.
Oh no, it would have been a lot bigger. I have a coworker who I share a cubicle wall with, and he's been on the Cubs bandwagon since early last year. Chris Bryant, of course, one of the great players for that team, was actually in the farm system on the Sevierville team. And so he'd seen him a couple times or tried to or whatever. I can't remember. So he's been excited about Chris Bryant since then. And so he's a Braves fan, I think, but he's been on the Cubs bandwagon, which is fine. The Braves stink and whatever. Right. So, so I've been following this story pretty much all season, just kind of vicariously through him. Is that the right word?
Yeah, you good.
Yeah. Okay.
We use big words here on Marshall's again.
So I've been following it through him mostly, which meant that I was following, what was going on in the ALCS, and I knew that it was, Boston and Toronto, and then Cleveland, and I knew back then, but I've forgotten now who Cleveland played in the NLDS or ALDS, but whoever it was, I was looking at it thinking Boston's the only team that's going to make that World Series get the biggest possible number it could get. And so that's another reason I was kind of thinking, I wish that this could wait another year, that the Cubs would lose. That's what made the Boston story so great, right? Is that they lost to New York a couple years in the ALCS before they made it. And I was rooting for that. I was rooting for more drama, more excitement, more, stories that we could tell. But we didn't get it.
Then they came back from 3-0, right?
3-0, yeah.
That series.
Yeah, and I'll never forget that series. I'll never forget the Johnny Damon Grand Slam in Game 7, and the Big Poppy hits and all that, and the late game heroics. It was just pretty awesome. It really was, and I think ultimately the story trumps the Boston story, but the drama I think gets more because of the 3-0. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Well, you said it. I mean, you mentioned stories, and when it comes to sports, as much as we enjoy like a good catch or a good play or a good game, it all comes down to the storylines that we can tell, or the storylines that we see, or the storylines that are pushed. I mean, like last year, like the Super Bowl last year, it was all about is Peyton Manning going to win before he retires, and this year it was all about who's going to break their curse. Is it going to be the Cubs or is it going to be the Indians? Who's going to do it? So, that's what, I mean, I don't know if that's what makes sports great, but it's what brings people in, the stories that they tell. So right now it's hard to see a story that is going to go along with next season, but, I'm sure we're going to see it again, but I don't see a story yet. Then I'm kind of like you guys. I mean, it's almost unfortunate that the Cubs won because that's a story that we can't tell anymore.
I think you both of you guys hit it on the head, and Daniel, you kind of touched on it. You don't know if it's the story or what. I do think sports as a whole is some of the greatest stories ever told, because one, it's real life drama, like Andrew said, but you can't write some of this stuff. Like, some of the stuff that happens in reality, like we see these corny baseball movies, But I mean, like Boston come back from 3-0. I mean, you just don't see that, or the Cavaliers coming back from 3-1 against a 70-win Golden State team. Or those are stories that bring people in because they're intriguing and it's real life. And I think I wrote on Facebook, I was like, I may hate baseball, but man, this is a sport that writes the best scripts, and they just do. When baseball is good, it's like it has this mystique around it because it is America's game. Or some people say football's kind of taking that over. That's another debate for another time. But baseball is known as the American sport and the great American sport, and it does create some of the great scripts. I mean, how many, as far as history wise, because how large it is, you've got so many history blips for baseball that people remember or have read about, or these stories from the 60s and the 40s and stuff like that. It just creates it's one of the sports that writes such a great script.
You just reminded me of my favorite thing that came out of Game 7 of the World Series, other than the Cubs winning, which I was very glad to see. And that was in the I think it was the 8th, right? No, it wasn't the 8th. It was whatever inning it was where they had the 2-run wild pitch. They had that, and it was like, oh man, that was just kind of fluky all on its own, right? Because the pitcher falls over and whatever, or the catcher rather falls over, and then a little bit later, Joe Buck chimes in and is like, and that 2-run wild pitch, by the way, is the first one in World Series since blah blah blah, when a wild pitch went by the catcher and 2 runs scored because the catcher got mad and refused to go get it. Like, and first of all, that sounds so ridiculous that I'm like, y'all are just making crap up. But at the same time, it's like, dang, that's funny. I'm glad you made that up because it was good entertainment to me.
I'm not a huge Joe Buck fan. I have my issues with him, but when he does baseball, he's not as good as his dad was. At least from what I've heard of his dad, I kind of enjoy him. He broadcast for the Cardinals for a long time. But Joe Buck, as far as a narrator, he just has that voice, right? Like he just narrates the story in front of him. He doesn't have a lot of really cool catchphrases, or he doesn't get overly excited. He just has that kind of monotone narrator voice. And so he does a great job of kind of explaining the story, throwing out some facts. So he actually did. And I like John Smoltz. Some people didn't like John Smoltz, but I thought John Smoltz does a pretty good job.
He was money, yeah.
John does a good job. John does a really good job. He was
money. And I will give Joe Buck credit. I'm a bigger fan probably than most people, it seems, but he absolutely nailed the winning out or the winning play, because it's a double play for the NLCS, and then he nailed it again with the World Series. I mean, he was right on point. He kind of he told you what was happening, and he got out of the way and kind of let the moment, the crowd, the roar take over. He's no Vin Scully, but nobody's Vin Scully,
Well, I think what he did, that you could tell in some of the things that I don't like about Joe Buck. I like announcers that kind of get lost in the game just a little bit, and I think that's why he's such a professional, is because he doesn't get lost in the game. But you could tell even from that last play, like you could see him kind of get up out of his chair. Right, it didn't show him, but you could tell by the way his voice was kind of going that he was just as excited as we are to watch it at home. And that's one of the first times that I've heard Joe Buck get so excited about that. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I'll give him a thumbs up. He's no Phil Simms, but who is.
Oh gosh.
So let me ask you this, guys. So the Cubs win a World Series, first one in 108 years. They've been the lovable losers for 108 years, whenever that moniker kind of came around. How long do you think before everybody starts hating the Cubs because they won the World Series? Go ahead.
They need to win one more. If they win,
does it have to be back to back, or just like 2 out of 3 years, or 2 out of 4?
I think 2 out of 4. They win 2 out of 4, and if they're least competitive the next 2, then they start being hated for. Of course, they're already hearing that stuff about, oh, you hopped on the bandwagon, stuff like that. But they're going to be hated soon if they keep winning.
What do you think, Andrew? How long?
Yeah, I would say it's about right. And Boston won 2 out of 5, right? 04 and 08, or I guess that's 4. Yeah, that sounds about right. I'll go with that. I hope they win next year, though.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Like I said, the Braves aren't going. If the Braves aren't going to be good, I might as well hop on the bandwagon for a sport I don't care about.
The thing that really broke my heart is I love both of these managers, and I know we don't talk about baseball. We definitely don't talk about baseball managers, but Joe Madden is such an eccentric, just weirdo, and he's just so awesome, right? Like you're like, I like to hang out with Joe Madden. Then you got Terry Francona, who survived cancer and just seems to be just a guy that loves to manage and loves baseball. Both of them. You kind of hated to see either one of those guys lose. I was glad to see the Cubs won, but I'm a big Terry Francona guy.
Yeah.
You could just tell. Somebody came up and asked him, what was it? Is talk about Game 7, and the guy came up and he asked Terry. He said, "So, Game 7, you think this is a must-win situation for you, Terry?" And he just started cracking up. And he just cackled. And he said, "This is the first time I've got a question from you that I won't lose sleep over." He just seemed, both those guys seem just really cool guys. So I was kind of a little bit upset for Francona because I love that guy. I loved it when he was in Boston. He managed the Phillies, and because the Phillies suck, they fired him. He goes to Boston, wins the World Series. So, but I was kind of upset for Francona. He's a pretty cool dude.
Yeah, you do have to give credit where it's due, and those are two very likable managers and two very likable teams. Yeah, the Indians were extremely talented. Like I said, I was kind of disappointed to see them lose because they played well. They did what they needed to do and just came up a little short. Because that's a great roster that Chicago has.
Yeah, most definitely. And all those guys, you look at both those rosters from up, bottom front, top to bottom. A lot of that's homegrown talent. Minus some of the guys Cleveland. Who did they sign? I don't know. The Miller kid, I think that they signed, that didn't come up through the system. But a lot of these guys, you see, the Yankees signing everybody, but now the Cup. Both of these teams, I didn't recognize anyone because I don't watch baseball. But from what I understand, Daniel, a lot of those guys came up through the minors. Pretty much homegrown talent, I guess. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Jason Hayward, I think. Jason Hayward right. and which he didn't do much. And Dexter Fowler was a big important one. Of course, he came from Kansas City. I say, of course, you didn't know that. I didn't know that until after Game 7. So,
well, the only thing I knew about Dexter Fowler was that he played for the Cubs and he signed with the Orioles, but didn't sign with the Orioles and came back because I heard that story about 1,000 times in Game 7. So that's really the only thing I knew about Dexter.
Yeah, like I said, I gained a lot of knowledge through osmosis from my coworker who was very into all of it. So,
I will say this is a World Series where, as far as me, like looking at the guys that's playing, I'm like, man, I would fit right in this World Series. Like all these guys look like regular dudes. Like you just walk by them in the street or see them in a restaurant or, or, something. Like there's a guy that played for the Indians. I can't remember his last name, but he just looked like a regular dude. Like he looked like your next door neighbor. You wave at when you go get the paper in the morning or whatever. If it was 1950, we used to do that. So,
touching on that, and that's one thing I was going to mention too, Aaron, was one thing that I love about the World Series and really about any like postseason game, but especially when it comes to baseball, is I love seeing like the players get excited, and you can tell they're having fun and you can tell they're enjoying what they're doing. Like, when you play 163 games, it's easy to be bored or, not get as excited. But, in Game 7, like when the Indians hit that home run, when the Cubs went up early, when I think Lester threw that wild pitch and the Indians scored 2, and to see the players be so down to earth and get so excited about what they're doing, that that goes back to that storyline. It's just so much fun as a fan to watch that.
I always joke. I said, anybody play baseball? Terry Pendleton won an MVP. Look at Terry Pendleton. I don't know. My papa used to tell me, he'd be like, why don't you play baseball? And I was like, I know, I'd fit right in. And, I should have went and played. I could have been an all-star in baseball. I could eat like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and pizza every day. Somebody's going to write in and be like, baseball isn't just like that. Everybody's got to be in shape. Okay. All right. So, guys, I don't know. We don't watch enough baseball to say who's going to win next year. But I say we're all kind of rooting for our teams. But if the Cubbies win, I'd be okay with that.
I think the Cubs are going to be favored again. They're keeping a lot of their core. That's, again, me gaining information from other people and just regurgitating it. But I do think that's probably who's going to end up being the favorite. Although they say the Yankees have a good farm system now, maybe one of the top 1 or 2. So screw them, I guess, is all I can say. Hey, I did want to make a note, even though none of us really care about baseball. I did actually attend the last playoff game to be played at Turner Field for the Braves back in 2013. I had to look that up and confirm it just now, but I did, which it was purely by accident. I was just so happened to be in Atlanta on the night of the game Game 2 of the NLDS in 2013 against the Dodgers, and Mike Minor beat Zach Greinke. So just a note.
And that doesn't,
cool.
The Braves have been bad for a while, but that's only like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like baseball, I think we think of because it has such a history. It does seem like it's been a lot longer than 3 years ago.
Well, the season's too long.
That's true. What is it, 180 games?
Season's too long.
Yeah.
63. 163.
How many?
Right. 163 in the regular season.
Oh, I said 180. So
probably 162, right?
Yeah,
Probably
162, I think.
162. Right? Okay. Yeah.
It feels like 180. That's what I meant to say.
There it is. Yeah.
All right, so congratulations, Cubbies. The city of Chicago, one of our guys that writes, Chris Stamper, is actually he lives in the great city of Chicago. So I know he was pretty stoked, and apparently, as far as the celebration goes, that was the seventh most event as far as population of people that came in the United States history. That showed up for the game winning stuff. I saw that on, I think it was ESPN or something. I was like, whoa, that's a lot of people.
It is. And I'm at first I'm like, how was it not everybody in Chicago? But you have to remember Chicago has 2 baseball teams.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The White Sox that won a World Series before the Cubs, which I'm sure wouldn't make the the Cubs are the North Siders, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. White Sox are South Siders. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember the White Sox is WGN and a guy saying, "Put it on the board." Yes, that's the only thing that I can remember. That was what the announcer did every time they hit a home run. So you guys didn't watch WGN baseball?
I watched WGN.
I watched WGN. I do not remember that.
You don't remember that?
That being said, I would stop and watch Cubs games, but I would never stop and watch a White Sox game.
Okay, he was the White Sox guy. So
okay,
that's probably why. If you watch just Cubs games, then no, you probably didn't see that. So. All right. Well, you bunch of losers. At least I know a little bit about the White Sox, okay?
I think you're the loser in this situation.
That's right. I watched the White Sox game. Yes, you would be correct. Oh, man. So, yeah, let's move on to some college football. A wacky kind of weekend. Texas A&M thought they crashed the party, Andrew, and then, they got Mississippi State decided to crash them a little bit. How surprised was you to see, and this is a bad Mississippi State game. They're not even 500 at this point. Did that score kind of surprise you?
Yeah, it was surprising. I didn't watch it, and it didn't really matter, I guess, because to me, we knew from even from when they announced Texas A&M at number 4 that it wouldn't matter. People still get mad about it because they need something to get mad about, and talking heads and sports shows have to have something to talk about, but it was going to take care of itself, and it always was going to, because the 4 that are in there now aren't going to be the 4 that are in there at the end. We know that. It happens every year. I'm trying to remember. I think it's 6 of the first 8 from the last 2 years. They've been doing this. This is the 3rd year they're doing it, and I think the top 4 in the first week, both years, so 6 of 8 basically, were not in the playoff at the end by the time it was all said and done. So there was only one team each year that made it all the way, staying in the playoff. I guess it's probably been Alabama both times. I don't know. I don't know if
Alabama's been in every time.
Correct.
Yeah,
but maybe they weren't in it the first year actually, because I don't know. Whatever. I'm not going that far back into it. But I think this whole discussion just gets overblown. It's like, it was going to take care of itself. It always does. There's a whole month of football left. If Tennessee can lose to South Carolina, any freaking thing can happen. So that's the way I look at it.
Listen, we want to talk about that.
No, we don't need to. But this year has been kind of light on upsets. Really, the biggest upsets have been like Houston losing. So to see one finally come was a pretty exciting thing. But there hasn't been a whole lot of it, I guess. So I get tired of that conversation. So I might not be the person to ask on that. now that we're here.
So with the loss to Texas A&M, I mean, it looks like as far as it'll probably be Alabama, Michigan, Clemson, and Washington or Louisville. Which
no, it'll be Ohio State because they just shellacked
Ohio
Nebraska.
State. So yeah, that's last crew is going to be Washington, Louisville, Ohio State. That's who's going to be one of the teams to get in that 4th spot, at least right now. Which it does, like Andrew said, it kind of doesn't matter right now. But I mean, looking at it here, Michigan, I don't see anyone. They've got to play an elimination game with Ohio State. So whoever wins that game is probably in if they're still undefeated.
Yeah, that's another thing. That was always going to take care of itself because not both of those teams are going to make it. Well, maybe, but
here's the thing: say Michigan loses Ohio State, but it's close. So Ohio State moves on to the Big Ten championship, wins the Big Ten title. You think Michigan has a chance? You think they'll actually put a 1-loss Michigan team above like an undefeated Washington?
Not an undefeated Washington.
Okay,
but we've known all along that the Big 12 wasn't going to get a team in. They're not good enough. And that's pretty much official now. Like I think everybody has 3 losses. Is that right? In the Big 12? I don't know. It's probably true.
No, Baylor's only got 1 loss, and West Virginia's only got 1 loss. Oklahoma's got 2.
But nobody's good enough. Let's put it that way. There's nobody that's going to have a good enough resume to get in. If Washington wins out, they'll get in. If Washington has 1 loss but wins the Pac-12 title, they'll probably get in. The ACC champion will probably get in. We just don't know who that's going to be yet. And then the SEC champ, as long as it's Alabama, will get in, but only if it's Alabama. That's going to leave 1 spot for Ohio State or Michigan. Because I don't think you can jump. They could probably jump a 1-loss Washington Pac-12 champion.
Possibly.
But not much else.
Washington's kind of been dominant. I mean, they had a good game against Utah, on the road that they beat Utah in. They're an intriguing team. They're one of those teams I don't get to watch very much because I'm usually in bed by time, and we don't get Fox really doesn't put them on TV. I know they have the Pac-10 routes or whatever, or Pac-12. They're intriguing. Clemson's I think is on the way down. Of course, they had the injury to their quarterback yesterday, his shoulder. It just seems like they're kind of skirting on the edge a little bit. It seems like one game they're really dominant and one game they're kind of not. Their defense isn't where it needs to be. So at the end of the season, because we'll probably have another one of these by the time the end of the season ends, hopefully. Andrew, who's the top 4 by the end of the season?
Alabama, Clemson, the Ohio State-Michigan winner. I'm going to punk out on that one. and I guess Washington, they've got a couple tough games left, so there's definitely some upset bait there. But that's who I'm going to go with because I do like how they play. I like Chris Peterson as a coach, and they're young, so they could easily blow it. But I like the way they play. I don't think they'll do much once they get there. But the Pac-12 sucks, so they might as well make it.
I'll say Alabama. I'm not dumb enough to, put some kind of weird prediction on there. I'm going to say Ohio State. I think Ohio State beats Michigan. I'm going to say Washington, and I'm going to say Louisville. I think Louisville gets in.
So how does Louisville sneak in over Clemson?
I think Clemson loses another
2.
game.
So that Louisville could win the ACC championship, right?
Yep. I just don't like how Clemson's playing. I didn't like how they play against Louisville. Didn't like how they play against Florida State. I don't know. You can send your hate mail to monstersofgeek@gmail.com. I'll do anything.
I'm just asking where you see their 2 losses coming from.
Let me see. Let me look at their schedule.
Daniel, you give us your 4 while he's looking that up.
I think I'm thinking, of course, Alabama. I think Michigan will be in. I think they'll beat Ohio State. I feel like Clemson will be in. Maybe. I don't think Washington will be in, though.
Do you think?
So I don't know.
They'll blow one somewhere along the way.
I think so. Maybe. I mean, maybe Louisville comes in over them.
I like Louisville an awful lot, and I like Lamar Jackson an awful lot. But nobody has, even Clemson didn't stop Lamar Jackson, even though they won. So let's take a look. So we've got Pittsburgh, Wake Forest, and South Carolina as the last 3.
For Clemson?
Pittsburgh's been all right. They'll blow Wake Forest out. I think, South Carolina maybe rivalry game. Muschamp knows how to stop, offenses. I don't know how many points they'll score. But I could see one of those teams tripping them up. But maybe I just want Clemson to lose. I want Louisville in the playoffs so bad. I'd love to see Alabama versus Lamar Jackson. That's what I want to see. And that's what I'll get if Louisville gets in there. They're not going any higher than 4, but
I don't think Lamar Jackson will get 200 yards of offense against Alabama's defense.
Quite possibly. I like to see it, though. I like to see it. That's all I'm saying.
That's fair. I'm just stating my opinion.
Talk about stories in football, you know. We'll see the best player in football versus the best team in football. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I agree. It'd just be interesting to see Alabama chase him all over the place. Is all I'm saying. I think it'd be fun to kind of watch that. So yeah. So college football is heating up a little bit. I did want to talk about this for a second. Speaking of Lamar Jackson, ESPN again is trying to let a Michigan defensive back win the Heisman over someone that has had an outstanding season. So Jabril Peppers, ESPN really wants you to win the Heisman, just like they wanted Charles Woodson to beat Peyton, which I still hold as a personal grudge against you, ESPN. Why in the world? I mean, look at Lamar Jackson's stats. And I'm not saying I think you could, Andrew, maybe you could take Jabril Peppers off that Michigan team, right? And they still be good.
Yeah, they would be because they have probably the best. I heard somebody say this, and I don't know who it was, but they were saying that Michigan might have the best unit, period, in all of college football in their defensive line. And if you can control the line of scrimmage, that's what Alabama's been doing for almost 10 years now. If you can control the line of scrimmage, you're going to win most of the time. And that's what they're doing. And Jabril Peppers is what, a corner, safety? Whatever. He's not on that best unit in. So, I mean, they're making him look good now. He does deserve probably some consideration, but I mean, they're doing some fluky things to just kind of help campaign him and help him try to get that Heisman. And it's just like, guys, Lamar Jackson had 400 yards yesterday. Let's not get cute about it.
Yeah, I mean, even if he loses, say Houston beats him or something, I mean, he still wins the Heisman. Like if it's truly about a player that's the best player on a team, that I view the Heisman, if you pull somebody off a team, how good do they do? You pull Lamar Jackson off of Louisville, and Louisville's maybe 8-4. I mean, the finish of the season, that guy's just amazing. He's like a video game. He is like a video game character. He's the closest thing to Michael Vick that we had got since Michael Vick. I mean, the guy is just ridiculous.
I only watched him at the end of the UVA game last week, but dang, that dude can ball.
Yeah, he can. He can throw the
ball.
And
that wasn't even a good game that he had against UVA, and it was still like, man, that dude can ball.
Yeah, he's pretty. I don't know. It just upsets me. I guess because of the Charles Woodson, Peyton Manning thing. And I know ESPN has, just like you said, Andrew. ESPN has a job to kind of hype these things up. But I think there's only been one. At least what I've seen play. There's only been one defensive player that even, in my personal opinion, even should have got consideration for the Heisman. That's Julius Peppers. What he did at North Carolina was astounding. And I never thought that even Sue, I don't think should have been even thought about for the Heisman. But I thought Julius Peppers, if there was any defensive player to ever win it, that kid should have won it. But I don't know. I just watch sports. All right. So that's.
Hey, I know we're all three kind of downtrodden UT fans, and I've got something kind of in the back of my mind, but I want to see how you guys feel about it. So we're in the thick of an SEC East race, right? Even though we've lost three conference games, we're still right in the mix of it. If Florida loses one more and Tennessee wins out, but to me, you're still just playing for a ticket to play Alabama again, and I don't want that. I would rather Florida win out and go and get the pants beat out, get the tar beat out of them by Alabama, than sit through that again. And I'm just curious how you guys feel about it. I don't want to go to the championship game. I do not want to. I want to lose the division so they don't have to play Alabama again. Because I don't think it would be close. So what do you guys think?
Go ahead, Daniel.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I've thought really hard about this, and the SEC East is terrible. I mean, with all of our injuries, and I know people you can't use that excuse. Well, at this point, when we have like 17,000 injuries and we're down to like 3 scholarship defensive linemen, yes, I can use that as an excuse. I went back and forth, man, and I still think that I still think we go. I just feel like Florida can't beat LSU because they can't score any points. Florida's defense, I think, is a little bit overrated in my personal opinion. I think Fournette can actually run on that offense, so I think they lose to LSU. We have some tough games coming up. I think we can beat Kentucky. Kentucky is probably the one that worries me because they can actually score. Missouri and Vanderbilt can't really score, so I feel like if we can just put a couple touchdowns on Vanderbilt and Missouri, I think we could beat them. This game this weekend is the one that I feel like we have to get past in order to win out, because this is the one I think is the most challenge to us, and I'm glad it's at home. But I kind of want them to go, man. And I hate that. I know when we went against LSU, I think it's the last time we went. LSU was a big favorite. Everybody thought we'd walk in there and get the snot kicked out of us, and we kept it close. I mean, it's 14-7 forever until Ainge threw the pick to make it 21-7. So, same against Auburn a couple years ago when Auburn was kicking our rear ends, and we almost came back and won that game in the SEC title game before the LSU one.
04. 07 for LSU and 04 for Auburn.
There you go. Okay, cool. I'm terrible with years. I can remember plays and everything, but I can't remember years. So I would like to see us go. I think it puts our program, even though it's against Alabama, Alabama hasn't played a bad game. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, maybe we go. Maybe they play a bad game. Maybe they just don't play. Maybe they're still Alabama, but they're not Alabama like, and we get some guys back and we get some guys healthy. I'm not saying we'll beat Alabama, but it's just for that chance, right? I mean, it's that chance to go and be like, well, maybe Alabama screws up, or maybe, we get some turnovers when we're not supposed to, or Alabama doesn't convert like they usually do, and we're in this football game. I would like to see us go. I think it elevates us to say, hey, we're kind of back. We're not up, which no team in the East is up to the West yet, but, we're up there. We're kind of building up. We're almost there. And I would love to see us go, even if we do get our rear ends kicked. But it's just that chance, right? That one chance that we could pull a huge upset.
It's like the Little Giants, man. Little Giants.
Exactly.
Just takes one time.
They came out of that locker room and they beat those Cowboys. All right, with a bunch of kids that didn't even belong on the field, and that's how I feel about the Tennessee Volunteers against Alabama. Okay, we're trying to be the community team. Okay.
I'm with you, Aaron. I'd like to see them go and play. They were in that game up until halftime. I mean, it was I think it was 21-7 at halftime.
Guys, that's Derek Dooley level stuff. Don't give me that. Don't feed me that crap. I'm not buying it.
I'd like to see him. I like to see him play. I mean, and not just because of. I mean, what it can bring to your program is good, and the spotlight is good, and all that. I'm not just that, but I mean, I'm a firm believer that any team can beat anybody on any given day. You never know what's going to happen in a football game. So I would love to see him play, and I'd love to see him give him a good game at the very least.
I mean, I would love that. Okay, I would love that. But
you're scared. You're scared
I'm
of what
I'm not scared. I'm confident that they would get killed.
I've never heard somebody being scared turn that into confidence. Come on, Andrew.
Let me ask you this, Andrew. Are you just do you just really want to see Florida lose, or were you just like?
I mean, would that be the worst thing?
No, not at all. But what I'm asking is what weighs more? Like, do you just not want to see Tennessee lose, or do you really want to see Florida lose?
I don't want to have to sit through another Alabama shellacking like that.
It's just that chance, right? I mean, it's that one afternoon Alabama walks in, they walk in the stand back, oh man, we kind of feel weird, and they ate some bad tacos the night before. Or maybe they got diarrhea and they're throwing up and I'm sick or something. I don't know. They walk in like, I don't know if we can do this or not. We beat them.
Did you see what Saban said about his defensive line yesterday?
Oh,
he said they're pretty hateful guys. Like Saban said that.
I'm a hateful guy too. I mean, okay,
Nicholas
I can be that grandpa.
Saban, Nicholas Allen Saban. I don't know if that's his middle name. Saban said that about his defensive line. They're pretty hateful guys. Like, for Saban to say that, it means something.
Well, maybe he should go give him a hug. All right. I mean, they're hateful dudes. Maybe he should give him some
That's
dap
what
or give him some love. Bring him a cake or something.
we need to get Layla Kiffin to go and give those guys a hug, and then Tennessee can win.
It's just for the record, it's Nicholas Lou Saban Jr.
That's right. That's journalism right here, baby.
Of course it is. Did you just know that? You didn't Google that fast.
No, it's Wikipedia. Come on.
You can't believe Wikipedia. His name's Alan, or it's about to be. Give me a minute.
His middle name's Satan, okay? We all know this. Lucifer, whatever you want to call it. That's his middle name.
Satan Saban.
No, in all seriousness, I wouldn't be upset. Okay, I just don't think that they would win, and I don't want to have to sit through that. If they did get there, obviously I would win it, and I would be glad that we could say, we won the East finally. Screw Florida, right? Because I do hate Florida enough that I would be glad that they didn't make it, but I also hate Florida enough that I'd be glad to watch them get destroyed again by Alabama. So it's I guess it is what it is.
After that South Carolina loss, my wife had to remind me that I said the first year, as long as we beat Florida and Georgia. No, that's a good question. And, it was terrible in Knoxville. Now we lost another, 6 guys or something in 15 minutes or whatever. But, just to have that chance, man, I like, even if somebody gave me a ticket, I'd go shoot, but, you want to, I don't know. I just want to see him successful. And I'm just making it there. I think is successful enough for me to continue to build on what Butch is trying to do. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. My personal opinion is that I believe that he deserves the chance to right the ship, so he deserves the chance to coach next year. But I also believe that he won't be able to, and that he'll be fired after next year.
Okay, so who do we hire? Well, let's do it.
I agree with you. That's why I don't think they should fire him this year.
Yeah.
But I think that once he doesn't right the ship next year, he will get fired.
So do you think even if he goes the SEC title game this year and he doesn't, I guess, right the ship, whatever, what's riding the ship? Winning the SEC title?
No. Okay, so that's the problem, right? Is that Saban is in the West and he's so extremely dominant. And we saw this with Urban Meyer 10 years ago. They're just so dominant that they're getting guys fired left and right just because we want to be that. We want to be Florida in 06 through 08. We want to be Alabama since then, and we can't. So we fire a coach, and we fire a coach, and we fire a coach. I'm not saying it's the right thing, although I think Butch is a used car salesman that's in over his head. I'm just saying that's probably what's going to happen. Like, people are going to get vocal enough. They're going to get loud enough. There's going to be a new athletic director in there. And he's going to hear all that. He's going to see the frustration. He's going to see, in my opinion, what's going to be a lack of improvement. And then he'll just have to make the decision. His hands will be tied.
But what's the lack of improvement?
I'm rooting for that. Well,
I mean, look at where we were at with Dooley. And,
I understand.
Is the first time in since 2006 we've been to 3 straight bowls. We've won, 9 games, hopefully win 9 games 2 years in a row. I just don't see. I mean, it is progress, and I understand that. And I hate that Alabama is so dominant. I hate that LSU is so dominant. I hate all these other teams in the West. But I don't know if you fire a guy when you look at what he's done. Now, at some point when the SEC kind of comes back to the East and you're still not winning, or maybe Georgia jumps you next year or something, maybe. But I don't know, man. I mean, I think we forget how bad those Dooley years were.
I'm not forgotten, and I'm not advocating for firing. I just think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I just don't think he's good enough. Personally, he got out coached by Muschamp 2 weeks ago. That's just the reality of it. He got out coached by McElwain, which McElwain might have some coaching chops in him. I don't know, but his teeth sure are yellow.
Tell me about it, man. His teeth are like corn.
I just don't think he's got it in him. Now that he can't sell, we're seeing it now. Now that he can't sell immediate playing time as a major recruiting pitch, he can't recruit like he was. And this team is far too talented. I know they've had injuries, and you said it right. something about excuses. Don't mistake excuses for reasons.
Yep.
And the injuries the injuries that they've sustained on defense are reasons. They're not excuses. They are reasons, because it's been absurd. He's going to fire DeBoer, I think, in the offseason, and that hire is probably going to be the single biggest hire in his career, because it's going to make or break him as a coach. I like Bob Shoop. That's to me, that's been a good hire, although apparently the statistics say otherwise. But if he hires somebody else to come in and run the same offense that he's been trying to run, and there's no variety and there's no whatever, then there's going to be, it's just going to be what happens, whether it's right or not, whether it's what we want to see or not. I just think that's going to be the reality of the situation.
I think what you see with Shoop is something we didn't have last year, and that's second half adjustments. I think he's a masterful adjuster at halftime. What he did to Florida, even Georgia, coming back and really kind of stopping their running game, even though we gave up that monstrous pass. I think he does a really good job. Even against South Carolina, I thought he had a good set, adjustments. We just hold on the daggone ball. I think it's been a good hire, and I think it's going to become a much better hire down the road. But I do agree that what was Fulmer's downfall? He couldn't find an offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
After Cutcliffe left, he could not find an offensive coordinator, and I think this is going to be, he's going to get rid of the board, or the board will step aside. I don't know if he'll fire the board. I think the board will probably step aside, because apparently him and Butch are good friends. So I say he probably steps aside, and he's got to make a hire, and he's got to make a hire for someone that I think maybe it was you, Andrew, or maybe it was someone else was talking about that he needs to make a hire that isn't going to run his system per se, and just let him have the offense. Just say, hey, offense is yours. I'm not going to run it. I'm not going to take play calling from you. It's yours. And just kind of just like what Fulmer did was dictate, or, hey, you do this, we'll get together for a plan, and I expect you guys to coach and execute it.
Yep. And I will say it's possible that because from what I've heard listening to the Swain event, which hasn't been consistent, but it's been enough, from what I've heard, Jarrett Guarantano, he'll be a redshirt freshman next year, is really, really good. So either Butch gets fired or the legend of Jarrett Guarantano starts very early, and he makes a difference. I don't know. It's possible.
Well, that's what I've heard too. I heard that, when he steps in the huddle, that he's the man. Like people just like, I want to play for this dude. And I'm not saying that's not the case for Dormady. I think Dormady's a good quarterback, but I agree. I think it was Swain that said, I said it from the time they recruited Guarantano, and then had Dormady as the heir apparent to Dobbs, that one of those guys wasn't going to finish his career at Tennessee. And I think it's Dormady.
Yeah, and I think it was Swain too that was talking about the quarterback battle, because there was a battle for Dormady, even though he's a junior, to get that second spot, and he ended up winning it. And I think the theory is that he only won it because they knew they'd lose him. If they put him at third string, they knew he'd transfer. So they put him at second string, and they sat Guarantano down in the room and was like, listen, you understand, right? You get what's going on. Like, I know, and you know, and I can't really say what I know and but and listen, you just sit it out this year, all right? And then we'll revisit next year. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it makes enough sense to me that I'm buying it.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, that kid's a gunslinger, man. And he's athletic, and this year's obviously not over, but you look, to the future, and, I think we got a bright future. And I'm not saying I want Bush to be my coach for the next 20 years. I guess I'm a bit spoiled because I had the same coach for 15 years or whatever with Fulmer, and you're used to seeing college football has changed so much that you don't see guys like you said, Andrew, you got Saban and Urban Meyer and all those guys being dominant every year. Jim, Harbaugh at Michigan, and, beating the tar out of kids, and you think, I'll just fire this guy. But, I just grew up in a situation where coaches got a chance. Maybe they had a bad year, but they got chances after that. And, it's just weird to see this coaching carousel that college football has become. And even like someone like Tom Herman, who hasn't made in Houston, man, like he could stay there for 20 years and wants to go do something else. And it's just, I don't know. I guess I guess with the invention of Twitter and Facebook and social media in general, I guess the heat is different than what it was last year or what it was during those times. But I don't know. I just kind of miss those days where you had coaches that was, 15, 20 years.
I can't believe, speaking of Houston and Tom Herman's, I can't believe that the Big 12 is as bad as it is, and they didn't let Houston in their conference. I can't even comprehend it. The only thing I can figure is that whoever is the representative from Texas, I guess the athletic director, is so powerful in that conference and in that group of people that he said, listen, we're already down, and if we let Houston in, because Houston's a hotbed for high school football talent.
Yeah.
If we let them in, Texas football will never be the same, blah, 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 blah. And they were scared. That's all I can figure, is that they were scared of how good Houston could be if they can keep Tom Herman's, and what they would be if they were able to get into the Big 12. That's all I can figure.
Well, Texas still, you got to think that Texas still, is their money, is their money guy. And I think they're still the only one with their own network, right? The Longhorn Network. So I don't know. I think Charlie Strong's done a pretty good job there, but he's probably going to be fired at the end of the year. And maybe see Tom Herman, at least from what we've read. I heard Tom Herman was pretty much, the contract was written up. He just has to sign it. So we'll see. Gotta love college football. It's like the mafia. Like college football is like the mafia. You got all these backstage deals. You got, fingers being chopped off and sent to kids, and then you got buffalo heads, in the in the bed next to the AD. It's crazy. It's crazy.
All this dirty money going.
All this
going
dirty money. Yeah. Urban Meyer faking heart attacks, and Saban hanging out with dirty dudes and whatever else. Man, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. All right. Well, that ends the sports episode, guys. You got anything to say before we sign off?
You didn't want to talk about the Warriors?
Oh, I guess we could talk about the Warriors right quick. Sure.
And more importantly, the Lakers beating the Warriors on Friday night. How about that one?
And in their old school uniforms. See, this is what I look at. I look at those old school uniforms. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, they beat the Warriors in the old school uniforms. If it was the other uniforms, I'm like, maybe not. It's not no big a deal. But they did it in the 80s uniforms. Come on. You got to be happy about that. Just saying.
Yeah. They only beat the Warriors on Friday night because the Warriors played OKC on Thursday night. But we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about the Lakers playing a lot better now that Kobe's gone. That's all we're going to talk about.
Well, we've talked about that for years.
Just 6 years.
Kobe's that kid, on the play, you don't want to play. I don't want to be picked by Kobe's team, man. Like, I'll be the last kid picked. Just don't pick me, Kobe. I won't play with you. I'll never get the ball. The NBA's been kind of wild, man. Cavs looking good. Warriors, I'm sure, will look good by the end of the year. OKC without Durant. I don't know how much Westbrook can do this, but they've been kind of surprised. I thought they kind of started off a little bit slow, but, Westbrook's Westbrook.
I don't think he can play at that energy all year.
That's the issue.
Not even Westbrook, right?
Right. Yeah, and I think that's something LeBron learned about halfway through his career. He was like, I'm not going to be able to play this game. I'm not going to be able to play this for 82 games. Like, I can't do this high end. I think Russell will end up learning how to balance that a little bit. But I think at this point, Russell's like, I want to prove that I'm better than KD. I want to prove that I can get this team in the playoffs and the finals, and we'll see what happens. It'll be fun watching him. Yeah. He's going to be fun. He's going to be a great, just like last year. He's going to be fun to watch.
And then on one last note that's unrelated to that. So basically your fantasy league, right, is basically just Monsters of Geek people for the most part?
No, mine's mostly work.
Oh.
Yeah. And you are leading church.
The three of us are in here, though, aren't there? Is that a different Daniel?
No, that's a different Daniel.
Okay, good, because he's 0-8, and I was going to make fun of him.
No, I did play fantasy with a group of guys from law school. I actually lost by less than 1 point today. So,
oh, that's brutal.
Ooh, that's rough.
I was telling Aaron before we started recording, I scored 142 in a standard league this week, so that's pretty good. Anyway, just going to check in and see how your all's fantasy teams are doing.
You just want to make sure everyone out there knows that?
I'm all 500 except for one league. I'm 4-4 in every league, but the Yahoo league I'm 5-3. 4-4 in the work leagues. Well, no, 4-4 in the church league and one work league, and I'm 3-5, about to be 3-6 in one league. So.
Oh man, that sucks. I'm in 5 leagues. I've been 3-2 or better in every week but one. So that's been decent.
I've only played in the one
here's
league, but
something
I'm
to talk about right quick. As far as fantasy football, what's been the worst time you sat somebody? Like they was exploding, he was sitting on the bench.
Hold that thought. I'll tell you my worst trade while I'm trying to look that up was when was that? The week before. I was just telling you about it. The week before Danny Woodhead got hurt, I traded someone, Melvin Gordon, for Doug Martin. And Martin hasn't played it down since then. And of course, Melvin Gordon's like the number 2 running back in the league or something like that. He went off again this week. So that sucked.
I'll tell you what mine is. I picked up, I don't know how to say his name, Ajayi, Miami running back.
Mm-hmm.
I picked him up after the first week that he blew up with over 200 yards, and I was like, I'm gonna have to have a wait and see week just to make sure. And then he puts up another 200 yards the very next week.
Yeah.
But I tell you what happens in my house, and it's happened. It's the third week it's happened, 3 weeks in a row. If I have a question, I've been asking my wife what she thinks. And, of course, she picks fantasy people according to how she likes the sound of their name and if she likes their picture. The problem is that she's been right. Like, I have lost because I did win against her advice twice. And I went with her advice this week, and I still lost, but she picked right. So it hurts my pride just a little bit. But I think I'll get over it if she wins me a few more games.
I had 2. One way back in when Clinton Portis had like 200 some yards and 5 touchdowns for Denver. He was on my bench. And I think even in a standard Yahoo league, I think he went for 65, which is unheard of. Like it's just a regular standard league. Obviously I had bonuses built in, but I mean most of it came from those touchdowns. Luckily I won, so it wasn't that big of a deal as far as if I'd have started him on one, blah blah. In fact, both of these cases I won, but just to see those 65 points sitting there, I was like, no. And some people still consider that. Like I was looking at Yahoo like a year ago, and it was like the top 5 fantasy performances ever, and there's Clinton Portis, number 4. He was sitting on my bench. The other one was just last week? David Carr threw for 500 some yards. Mm-hmm. And in the in my work league, I have Tyrod Taylor and Carr, and it's only a 1 quarterback league. And all but 1 week, and it wasn't this week. I think a couple years. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Tyrod Taylor scored like 10 points more than Carr, so I only got it right once. So I had him on my bench, and this league is crazy with the points. So he scored like 85 points in that league, and I still won. I won. It took Rudolph from the Vikings to kind of all the guys that do it. He pushed me over the top, but yeah, that was. I remember my buddy because he's almost in first. I think he's third now. He's not going to. But at the time, he was like a game behind. He said, "I really wish you to start Carr so I could catch that guy in front of me." And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm still going to win," and I won. But it's just crazy. Look down, like 85 points. What was I thinking?
Yeah, I had a Jahi too a couple weeks ago, so that one hurt. Now, and I lost that matchup by 2 points. That was actually okay. So here's another good question: is your most heartbreaking fantasy loss? So that week I had a Jahi and didn't play him, which in our defense you can't. You needed another week from him to see it before you started him. I started him this week, but. Yeah, you needed it. You can't get too mad at that because he hadn't done it before.
Yeah.
But that league, the guy was playing. I think he's like the number 2 team in the league. He's probably going to be. No, he'll be number 2 after this week. But he's the biggest trash talker, and I only play him once this year, and we use head-to-head matchup as the tiebreaker. So I really, really, really needed to win this only matchup against this big trash talker. You get the idea, right? So I had, when it came down to it, he had Christine Michael and the Seattle defense left, and he needed like 12 points, 15 points, something like that. And Michael and Seattle this was the tie game that they played against Arizona a couple weeks ago, the 6-6 tie. Basically all I needed was Arizona to score 1 more point in any fashion to knock his defensive score down from 8 to 6, and I would win. and they went for it on 4th down, one time down close to the red zone. They they blocked the one field goal, which was like a 3-point swing because you get points for the block. And then last possession of the game for Arizona, 27-yard field goal, and the dude shanks it, and I lose because he missed that crappy field goal. So I was like, that's so annoying. So that was some major fantasy heartbreak. I was mad for a week over that. Actually, I'm still mad about it. So I've been mad for 3 weeks over it. Just because I was right there. I needed the win. I'd lost the week before. And now if I win this week, I'm going to get back over 500. I'm at 500 right now. But it was just so infuriating.
I don't know about you guys, but we've had a lot of, we've been playing for about 6 years, but we've had a lot of games decided by stat corrections. Come really close. So I don't even celebrate or anything when a close game until after Thursday and stat corrections get posted. So I'm down half a point. So, there's a lot could happen. They rewatch those tapes. Who knows what will happen?
My most conflicted one is probably one of my worst losses, but it was the most conflicted. Me and my brother, I had beat the tar out of him in the season, and we met in the first round of the playoffs. And I hate losing to Joe, and Joe hates losing to me. I mean, it is what it is. We just don't like losing. My dad almost threw our Xbox out because he had stayed sick with quotation marks. And I had beat his rear end in Madden 12 straight times. Every night he was playing Madden, I beat the crap out of him. Well, he stayed at home, sick, and made this awesome team. He created all these characters, and they was all 99 and looked like they was on steroids. And he beat me by 2 points. Well, I got mad, and I flew off the handle. And he was, obviously poking the bear a little bit. And I said, you had to stay home and shove syringes in their butts and blah, 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 blah. All these things are naughty. And we literally argued straight for about 30 minutes. And finally Dad come up and he was like, if you don't quit, I'm throwing that box out the window. And then everything got really quiet real quick because we didn't want to lose our Xbox. But I think we didn't talk to each other the whole next day because it was that bad of an argument. So suffice to say, in short, we don't like losing each other. The issue with this is that he had Brett Favre coming into the last part of the game. Coming into Monday night, I was up by 25 maybe, and this is a standard league. So it's not, the 25 is pretty safe to a certain extent. Well, this was the game that Brett Favre, the day before, had just lost his dad. And so here he walks in on Monday, and I'm like, I don't know if I should root against Brett Favre. I'm not really. So here he goes, just start throwing, all those touchdown passes in the first half. And I'm sitting there, I was like, I don't know what I'm just going to lose. I can't root against this guy. I hate losing to Joe, but I mean, he lost his dad. I'm not going to be a jerk and be like, man, no, Brett Favre, you can't do that. Of course he can do that. He just lost his dad. So it was the most conflicted as far as the sports and fantasy football I've ever been. Joe beat me and he rubbed it in. But at the end of the day, I felt better about myself because I didn't root against Brett Favre. So
you can look at yourself in the mirror here, and that's all that matters.
Moral victory. I will say, speaking of Monday night comebacks, I did need 30 points one time going into a Monday night matchup. You probably are familiar with the time the Philadelphia Eagles played the Washington Redskins, and Michael Vick put up, one of the greatest all-time fantasy nights ever. He was on my team that day. I needed about 30, and of course he scored 45 or whatever it was, standard points. So that was a good night.
I knew it was going to be a special night when he threw that 88-yard touchdown pass. Yep. The game. I thought, oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, fantasy football. We'll probably talk more about fantasy football as the year goes along. But
I hate playing someone who has someone going on Monday night and I don't. Or right now, some inside baseball for you people. We're recording this on Sunday night. So right now the Raiders are playing the Broncos, and the guy I'm playing has two people playing, and he's probably not going to get it because he needs 25 points. But I still don't feel comfortable until it's over, and I hate that feeling. Hate it. Powerless to do anything about it.
We put so much emotion and stock into this, and we can't do anything about these things. None at all. All right. So to all your fantasy footballers out there, we have went through tough losses. If you went through one this Sunday or past Monday, it'll probably be posted after Monday. Just keep your head up. Just keep your head up. Remember, Stat corrections, right, Daniel? Stat corrections.
That's right. You never know.
All right, that's it, man, guys. Thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight, and for Daniel and Andrew, we are out for episode 30.
Michael Jordan's better than LeBron.
LeBron's better than Michael. Bye. See you. Bye.